Ethan Hawke went on to say he meets so many young actors that think being an actor is protein shakes and going to the gym.
I saw that quote. Yeah.
Oh my God, this makes it all so much better. Hey guys, this is the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm Ekon Song and this is
Rían Kelly. How are you doing?
Follow us wherever you find your podcast at Actor's Guide Podcast. We're on YouTube, we're on Substack. And follow us on all social media at Actors Guide Podcast. So on the episode today, a lot to jump into. We're going to start with Maya Hawke's comments on Instagram and social media. How Instagram is maybe, unfortunately for a lot of actors, a necessary part of the filmmaking business. Also, Ethan Hawke had comments about it, which were really funny. We're going to talk about how much money actually goes into an Oscar campaign. All the money that we don't hear that studios are pumping into these films.
More than you would think.
And then you hear stories like Brady Corbet, the director of The Brutalist, said he made no money, $0 making The Brutalist.
How is that possible?
Exactly. And this is why you guys got to tune in. This episode will blow your mind. I'm just saying it right here.
What a massive
This will
claim.
blow your mind.
What a massive claim out the gate. Also, Ekon has some great news, which we're not allowed to talk about, but we're just very happy for him.
Yeah. I love that. Yep. Very exciting news. We're going to get into all that this episode. It's going to blow your mind. Sit back and enjoy.
Enjoy your last moments of having a mind. And now, a word from our sponsor. Meet Life Double. You've heard of a body double. This is a life double. Hand over all the tedious, boring parts of your life to a trained actor and no one will be any the wiser.
Want to call out sick from work? Guess who's ready to step in and do the job? Did someone say promotion? It's time for your yearly physical? Well, now, who's jacked? You want your coworkers to think you're cool? Pay a little extra for a stunt double and now you can fall from a third-floor window onto a moving garbage truck.
Life Double. You reap what we sow. Life Double is not liable for loss of job, pre-existing health conditions, or horrified stares.
What's up, buddy?
Let me tell you what's up. I'll tell you what's up. The sun came out today for the first time in 11 days. There has been 0 hours of sunlight for 11 days.
Wow.
And it has been rough. I nearly cried when the sun came out today. It was just... There might have been an hour of... There might have been a little bit of daylight the other day, but more or less for the last 11 days we've had 0 sunlight. You know the way in West LA they have like June gloom and then May grey and then no sky July? It was kind of like that, where there was just no sunshine.
But over there it's just called Ireland.
It's just called February. Yeah. Yeah. You really underestimate how that impacts. Yeah, like I was just, everything just felt very bleak and miserable. And I was like, oh, is this ever going to end? But it's sunny today and I went for a walk.
All right, so a lot to get into today. We have a lot.
And before we do, can I just say a massive congratulations to Ekon, who will be working for the month of March. I'm thrilled. We will both be working for the month of March, actually, on 2 different projects. So
yeah. Your boys are going to get a little work in this month. So we'll have more details later on, but it's very exciting. It's just going to be great to be back on set. So I'm pretty thrilled. But yeah, can't wait to tell you guys all about it. So jumping into word around town, Maya Hawke, if you do not know of the story, she was being interviewed on Happy, Sad, Confused. I believe that's the name of the podcast. And it was pretty eye-opening. The 20 or 30 seconds that were being circulated, she was basically saying the conundrum of being obviously a working actor and now a known celebrity and also doing a lot of great films and TV shows. She's basically saying the conundrum is she has to be on Instagram, or at least she feels like she has to be on Instagram. She was considering deleting her Instagram, yet film producers are saying to her, you understand that if you have an Instagram and a certain amount of followers, I can most likely get a film financed. Also, if you don't have an Instagram, we need a collective amount of followers from your surrounding cast. And so this is the analytics. This is the math of financing and producing a film in this day and age. If it's true, and I mean, I have no reason not to believe what she's saying. This is the finance and this is the analytics of creating a film around someone. That means that if the lead does not have a huge Instagram or social media following, that means that their ensemble is mostly going to be a lot of people that do.
Right, so they have to make up
that
the
right
numbers.
Off the bat.
And that limits
Exactly.
their casting choices.
I do want to make sure it's clear. Maya Hawke revealed that she knows several smart directors who have been told by producers that they must cast actors with a certain amount of Instagram followers. So just to put a little context, it's like on that level, we're not talking about, low-level directors. We're talking about the top of the industry, and this is what the trend is.
Two things. One, has it been proven that Instagram followers translates into box office for a movie? I mean, is that, I don't know, but like, is that a proven metric? If we have a collective following of 12 million people, it will equal this many dollars for a movie. Is that proven, or is that just something that they believe? I don't know.
No, I think that's exactly where my mind went as well. So we can start right there. Part of the reason why I feel like, and Rían and I were discussing this a lot over the past couple of weeks when we were discussing the whole 4 seconds casting director controversy. That kind of made its waves through the Hollywood, and I was really happy to talk about it because I saw so many sides of it when actors and other people were chiming in on social media and so on, and seeing all sides of it. And this one, I had an immediate gut reaction as well. But when you see other people chime in about it, you see, oh, this is why they're angry. This is why they're scared. And a lot of actors are like, you're forcing us to do Instagram. I can't believe you can reduce us to a number. And all these things that can take power away from an actor. The way I look at this, I ask the same exact thing. You're telling me that Hollywood studios are trying to use any analytics to make their business more profitable. That does not sound like a shock. And that does not sound like a bad idea. I will repeat, though, I have always thought that Hollywood studios don't know what they're doing, and they don't know now after 2 strikes and after a pandemic and after so on and so forth. They're trying to figure it out. Some companies are thriving. Some companies are stagnant. But when it comes down to it, these analytics are the only things that they have to try to make a profitable business. So I think it's one way for them to try to have an idea. Because I agree, I do not know how many people will tune into a show because of their huge following on Instagram. That being said, someone with a huge following on Instagram is also kind of doing free advertising for them. So that's a plus. And then on top of it, let's talk about box office bombs. There's no certainty for a film to do well. Off the top of my head, we have, The Fall Guy this year was a major disappointment. You have Ryan Gosling, you have Emily Blunt, you have Ryan Gosling at the height of his popularity. And in all honesty, I wish I saw it, and I probably will, because I like Ryan Gosling. And to be honest, I thought the movie, for the most part, I thought it looked really fun. It checks all the boxes. And yet that was a major disappointment. We also have, obviously, Joker 2 for various reasons. There are so many films that they're so optimistic about, yet the numbers and the box office, that was the response. So what I'm getting into is they need as much analytics as they can, and this is just one piece that may or may not work. But at least it's something, instead of flying blind.
Yeah, and I understand people getting scared of that idea because it seems, I don't know, I guess it seems unfair. But also, so I years ago, like quite a few years ago, an actor I know was doing a movie, and one of the execs from the studio told him that they cast a couple of people based on their Instagram following. So I knew this was a practice for a few years. The other thing is,
producer said that. Producer said that.
One of the execs, one of the executives. But also, like, I have friends who now have large Instagram followings, but it's because of their work that they now have large Instagram followings. They didn't start that way, and they just kept getting work. So, to be honest, it doesn't particularly change my opinion one way or the other. It's not a surprise, really, that's a practice and that's a consideration for studios. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I don't feel like it's going to prevent me from getting work or not. I'm not, you know what I mean? My Instagram following is is not big, so like it doesn't really matter one way or the other. It's not the difference between 10,000 and 2 million. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and it doesn't change our job. You know what I mean? You still have to do. It's like the 4, like you said, it's like the 4-second cast director thing. It doesn't change our job. The other thing about that is, you know, I suppose it's about advantages in this industry. Maya Hawke came in with advantages, you know, being the daughter of Ethan Hawke, and she already had a leg up in this industry, which other people have spoken about the whole idea of nepo babies and whatever. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not something I wade into because it's kind of irrelevant. You know what I mean? That's good for her. Like that's very fortunate for her, and she's capitalized, and she's a very good actor. But people will look to things as a marker of how unfair this business can be, and it's not fair. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's a great point. That's a great point. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a fair business, and we know that. And I still choose to do it. So I have to accept a certain amount of that and go, yeah, okay, that's just how it is. You know,
I completely agree. You know, the power of this story. First of all, it was nice when people are openly talking about what's behind closed doors and these meetings, because, you know, for something that specific, it was news to me, to have it put that bluntly. But I completely agree. When you're an actor and you freak out, or you know, you're angered or you're saddened, are we using this as a story to tell us and make us feel better? This is why we're not more successful.
That's a very good point.
It's like you and me kind of like bouncing each other off, where I like to think that our conversations are actually lifting each other up, and maybe some people who are listening. And you could easily take this clip and say, this is why it's so hard being an actor. This is why I shouldn't do it. This is why I don't work. This is why all the things, just fulfilling that prophecy of why it's a sad, hard life, which it is a hard life, but it doesn't need to be sad and disempowering. So that's the shift that I'm making, where this is information. We're not in control of that. We don't have Maya Hawke's genes and who our parents are. So already right off the bat, like you said, it's like, hey, this was never really a fair fight. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, yeah.
But I agree with you on the conversations, and like, because sometimes I don't even know that story is what's behind the thought. You know what I mean? Like that's the story I'm telling myself, is that, oh, that's why I'm not more successful, until I'm talking about it and that thought is challenged from outside. Because like, left in my own head, I don't always know exactly why I'm thinking something or what's underneath it. So I think it's great to talk about this stuff. You know, I went out to a show last night with some actors, and I was talking about some stuff that was rattling around in my head. Just, you know, some insecurities and stuff that don't reflect the reality of what's going on. But it's only when I say them out loud and people go, that's nonsense, that you're like, yeah, that is actually rubbish. You know, you're dead right. That doesn't make any sense. But unchallenged in my head, it'll just bounce around there, and I'll just sort of accept it.
I look at it. This is the way I argue to a lot of actors. For someone who says, I'm not on social media, my talent will speak for itself, and they'll find me however they find me. I don't go to a restaurant if they're not on Google Maps. I don't go to a restaurant if they're not on Yelp. So this is how finicky I am. If they're not on Yelp or blah, 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 I'm not making the trek out to go see them. So it's kind of like how I look at it, was like, I feel like actors kind of just need to exist online. I know that that might be polarizing. We don't have huge followings, but we do water that. We do nurture that whole side of the business where, you know, we kind of got to be on it. We got to let people know what we're up to.
It is an interesting conversation, because you hear it a lot, and I've heard this from a few people in the industry, that like the first place that they will go looking, you know, that maybe production or whatever will go looking to find out more about you, will not be your IMDb. It will be your Instagram. Exactly. You know, usually, because that's the most accessible form of social media, to see who you are as a person, or how you present yourself to the world, and can they work with this person? So I think, yeah, it's one, that's where people go to find out about you. Two, you know, people who aren't on it, fair play to them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't. I think if I wasn't honestly, if we weren't doing this podcast, I would be taking longer breaks from Instagram because of how addictive it is for me.
Oh, I
because-
don't blame you, man. I mean,
Yeah.
if we weren't actors, I wouldn't be on social media.
No, and I've heard as well. People say, if you wanna post personal stuff, political stuff, or whatever, have a separate private Instagram to do that. That's just for your friends. I've heard that.
Yeah, that's
floated
exactly
as
what we
like a-
needed. Another account to handle.
I couldn't.
We won't dive into the granular of social media this episode, but I will admit people are suggesting people go to Instagram over IMDb. Just having your acting reel the first thing on your page pinned up to the top. I do not do that. There are a lot of things that make all the sense in the world and all the good practice, and yet I don't do that. I'd rather pin a video of me celebrating my butt off at the Eagles parade. That's just me. But my point is,
Though, but like you're quite good. I would consider you quite good at social media because you make videos and you put them out there. So like, I think you use social media more effectively than I do. But the other thing is, it's a weird hybrid of personal and professional. So of course you want to put stuff, it's and maybe putting your reel up pinned is a good idea. But I don't want to. I don't want
I know
that to be
exactly. I'm
first thing
the same way. I'm the same way.
So maybe there is an argument there for a personal page and a professional page. I don't know.
Yeah. So the point that I was getting to about these analytics, I should probably bring some people on because I have a lot of independent filmmakers who have done this. The old school way of getting an independent film produced is you sell foreign sales rights. So this is a strategy that a lot of people did. I don't even know if it's still going on. I think it still is, but it's just a different ballgame with streaming. But you have an independent film, and you talk to foreign sales agents who represent Germany, Spain, France, all the countries, Asia, et cetera, et cetera. You're selling these film rights, saying, "Hey, when your film is made, we have the right to distribute in our country." And we're prepaying you money. How do they value how much these rights cost? They use it by the cast. So they have a list and pages of actors saying this person's worth this much. If you can get this person in your film, it's worth this much, and so on and so forth. So
this is before the film's been made.
Yeah.
Man.
So this is a strategy to make films. So if you're going to say, well, that feels really dirty and gross, well, talk to all the independent filmmakers who got their films made doing that way. Because to be honest, there wasn't any other better way.
I don't think
there's no easy way to do it, really. But my point isn't that a very similar parallel where, hey, this is the collective Instagram followers, and this is the collective power of your ensemble, and this is how much we're willing to give you for your film rights. I'm just saying that's something that's been in the industry for, at this point, probably 40, 50 years.
Oh yeah, I don't think it sounds dirty. I understand it, but it's a gamble. You know what I mean? It doesn't guarantee anything. Like just because you have big names in a movie, so I don't know if it's a very reliable metric. Similarly, I don't know that Instagram following is a very reliable metric. I understand.
To that point, you got to keep in mind that these movies tend to be horror films, maybe a little B-level movies, B movies. So when it comes down to it, back in the Exactly. So back in the day, it's like, hey, we got an independent film. If it blows up in America, great, but we might be able to make our money back and take less of a hit. We sold a bunch of DVDs in Asia.
I was just saying, I don't know how reliable a metric it is of sales. I don't blame studios for doing that. I get it. I understand the theory behind it. I just don't know if it's reliable. It's a pity as well because it's sort of, I think it probably is a bit of a barrier to, how am I going to say this? It might be a barrier to getting the best cast possible for that particular movie. Because if you're limiting yourself by Instagram followers, they're possibly doing the movie a disservice by excluding people based on following or lack of following. So,
this is the one thing I want to add. It's also, we got to acknowledge that maybe it was accelerated during the pandemic. This is also in the conversation of TikTok being banned, unbanned, and so on and so forth. Everything is data. It's worth everything. It's ad sales. That's how Google makes most of its money, on ad sales, on internet search, and so on and so forth. So everything is data. That's what companies care about. That's what they're going to pay for. As far as the power of influencers, I feel like that's just going to grow. The power of influence, the power of social media, I don't think it's going down. I think it's going to grow. So whatever this might be a different situation than, say, 10 years ago when they gave a show to someone who was big on YouTube. It doesn't have to be an influencer. It could be a really talented person who has a huge Instagram following, like Kevin Hart, like The Rock, Ryan Reynolds. You know what I mean? So it goes both ways where, hey, they just became more valuable because they're huge on social media. So as far as, so this new trend of influence in social media, I think studios are starting to invest a lot more into people who have influence. The Mr. Beast apparently was successful with his Beast games on Amazon. He did it's essentially like a Survivor Squid Game type competition game. Apparently people survived and apparently it succeeded. And then also HBO is doing a reality show, a docuseries with the Paul brothers, Logan Paul, Jake Paul. I know. HBO Max is investing that. That's about to come out. And we'll see how the analytics work out. But I feel like the past 3, 4, 5 years is unlike anything we've ever seen.
Few things make me feel older than hearing about YouTube stars that I know nothing about. I have heard the name Mr. Beast so many times, and every time I hear it, I go, who's that again? And I go and I make a mental note to look up Mr. Beast, and it instantly goes out of my head because I don't care at all. Like, I don't even care a little bit. I just don't dabble in that kind of world at all. Like, it's not
oh yeah, I'm not here to argue one way or the other, but also you haven't really seen any of it.
No.
Right. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm a little split down the middle because when I got onto YouTube and I started embracing it and making stuff on it, I kind of needed to learn what the world was. The YouTube game, and this is perfect for another podcast, but the YouTube game was all about a marathon. It was never about short term. It was never about instant fame. The type of hours, regardless of who they are and what their shtick is, the type of hours that they put in and the discipline and consistency, actors don't understand the type of hours that they put in.
Oh, yeah,
it's bonkers. So at the very least, you learn the long-term discipline. They know how to brand. They branded themselves. And next thing you know, Amazon gives them $1 bajillion to goof off and have a competition game show. Teach their own. There's a million things for everyone. And one thing I will say on that note, the beauty and the curse of the internet is everything is diverse and spread out. Meaning, everyone is quote unquote locally famous. You have huge stars across the world and on the internet, and you couldn't even pick out their face. And that just shows it's a perfect telling thing where if you follow someone on Instagram with 150,000 followers, I bet you I don't even know who they are. And so my point is like we would dream of, oh, this is what fame is. I have 150,000 followers. And you look around and chances are no one knows who they are. This is, if you're chasing after fame, that's really relative. And I don't even know what that is. And so that's kind of like where fame is ambiguous in this day and age, and I feel like we have to, ground ourselves in something else.
I'm just looking him up here in real time. Now I know what Mr. Beast looks like. I know what Mr. Beast looks like, and he does not look like what I thought he would look like by the name Mr. Beast. He does not look like a beast. That's my initial impression. Not a beast.
You thought he was actually like a Sasquatch snowman.
He's 26 years old.
Yeah, he's a youngin'. Oh, wow.
And he has 363 million subscribers on his main channel. And then he has another channel and another channel and another channel.
And don't forget he has a food snack line and also a power drink line. So bridging back to this whole Maya thing, it's like, we feel lesser than because we look at each other's, following. We feel even more reason, hey, producers are looking at us, judging our numbers. we feel judged. And I think that might be the root of, and I feel the same way, just like any other human being on social media. It's like, this is the game that we're in, yet going back to, you just got to keep doing the work.
That's it. Yeah.
Control what you can control. And in the words of Denzel Washington, the best marketing is being really good. Obviously, there's probably many people who said that, but it's cooler when Denzel says it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Or I think he said the best branding. The best branding is being really good.
Yep.
Anyway, I just saw this now. Ethan Hawke had comments about it, which makes it even better. Ethan Hawke at the Berlin Film Festival was asked about his daughter's remarks. Ethan Hawke said he's encountered this phenomenon as well, and it's crazy. I really feel for these people. It's really hard. Sometimes I'll be setting a movie up and someone will say, "Oh, you should cast Susie." I'm like, "Who is she?" She has 10 million followers. I'm like, "Okay, cool. Has she acted before?" "No, but..." And you're like, "Wow, so this is going to help me get the movie made? This is crazy." Hawk goes, "So if I don't have this public-facing platform, I don't have a career, and if I get more followers, I might get that part? What?" Ethan Hawke went on to say he meets so many young actors that think being an actor is protein shakes and going to the gym.
I saw that quote. Yeah.
Oh my God, this makes it all so much better. I wish they could meet Phil Hoffman like I did when I was 18, because it was a much more substantive and enjoyable life. I mean, go to the gym if you want to, but that doesn't make you. Robert De Niro is not great because he has a six-pack. If the part calls for it, he'll do it, and that's awesome, but he's so much more than that. Now, this is a great story because it's Ethan Hawke, but going back to what we were saying, there's so many different ways and aspects you can dice up the story. And so I just say, for ourselves, it's like we take it, we move on. It doesn't really change that much. Do your work and keep going, and just know that this is part of the game.
Yeah, totally.
I'll be honest. The job that I booked is not from my Instagram.
Same. The two jobs I've been doing here, I guarantee you, no amount of Instagram posts or stories would have gotten me those jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so moving on. How much money goes into an Oscar campaign? I think we'll start with Brady Corbet's story first, actually.
Let's start with a guess. I'm going to guess.
Okay.
How much? Do you have a figure?
There's not one figure. It's a range, but yeah, you can guess. So let's go ahead. Guess how much a Oscar campaign is worth.
Say it's $100 million movie. Say it's not even a $200 million blockbuster. Say it's it's even in like a $60 or an $80 million movie. I would say they put in $5 million into Oscar campaigns. That seems like a lot. I don't know.
Oh wow, even that's really on the low range. A few $1 million for a smaller film, and 20 to 30 for major studio contenders.
What?
And to be honest, that's probably old. That's probably old news.
Is it worth that much?
So we're going to get into that.
Just give me a straight answer, Rían.
This is 2019, so this is going off of 2019. They paid $20 to $30 million in 2019. So that's actually a good place to start. Okay. And put in perspective, Brady Corbet, according to him, made $0 on The Brutalist. I'm not their accountant. I don't know how all the ins and outs work of that, but it does not shock me. They shot in Hungary. They shot massive tax credits. Everyone's flying to Europe and going to Europe to shoot these movies. But I did watch the movie, so I have a little context. I mean, it's epic. Yeah. Great performances. It's worthy of this. It's also 3.5 hours long, but it's an epic movie. And you want to guess that most of the money that they put into the movie is on the screen. And apparently, Brady Corbet made $0. He says that he didn't make money until he directed 3 ads or commercials in Portugal. That's the first time he made any money in years. And so this is the thing. It's like, people can, we're the face of, actors are in commercials and people can easily judge commercials. But you're like, hey, we got to pay these bills, and sometimes being in a Netflix show isn't going to pay those bills like it is for a Target commercial.
That's
So
the
this is
irony of
just
it, isn't it? Like the work that you love and the work that you want to do often doesn't pay as well as the work that like
pays the big bucks.
right, like commercials that people don't set out to. I don't think people get into acting to be in commercials as a goal. But it's amazing how like they can pay for your whole year. Also, you can work with Oscar-nominated directors in a commercial.
Yeah.
Like even I did a commercial in Mexico City a few years ago, and the director was Dave Meyers, who directs has directed
he's
every
huge. Yeah.
music video, like every major star you can think of. He's directed their music videos.
Oh, he's huge. I mean, he's been crushing commercials for years. Let's see, off the top of my head, that actually reminded me. I did a Facebook commercial back when they were called Facebook. It was actually in the start of the pandemic. It was very under wraps because people were just getting used to Zoom. It was a Facebook commercial directed by Michel Gondry.
Wow.
Talk
Loves your
about
work.
that's out of left field. And then it's like on this. It's like a lot of my earnings is from commercials. So I'm not gonna poo-poo them, not one bit. Commercials are high on my priority list.
Oh, you
they help me
crush
get
it
through.
in the commercial world. I don't know.
I've been really lucky.
Many
I've been
people
really lucky.
who make as much as you do from commercials, who work as much as you do in commercials. That's it. You've a particularly amazing track record of commercials.
This is fit for another podcast. I honestly don't know if I'm good or I'm really lucky, and I'm not being humble. I, for some reason, am very lucky because when I get one, it runs. I am not I'll be perfectly honest with you.
It can be both.
I'm kind of surprised. That's true. You can be both. I'm kind of surprised that I don't book more commercials. I'm honest. I'm not the guy that books 8 commercials a year, and I know actors like that. Yeah. But if I book one, it's going to run. Anyway, so I don't want to.
What's funny though? Because I was having this conversation yesterday with some of the actors I went to the show with afterwards, and we're talking about people were talking about sort of insecurities. It was like a topic that came up. Yeah. Just the insecure thoughts you have. And one of the actors said, she goes, I'm always very confident in my work, and I am too. Like I don't feel my insecure thoughts don't pop up in terms of my work per se. You know what I mean? Like I'm confident in the work that I do, and I'm confident that jobs come my way. It's other stuff that trips me up. So when you say like I'm lucky, I think that's also a mindset as well, which I think helps you. It's a very positive kind of a mindset.
So you're saying that lucky helps me mindset wise?
I think lucky is a mindset. Like I think that kind of feeds itself. When you say I'm very lucky, I think that's a very positive kind of mindset that sort of feeds itself. And like, I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of the commercials that you do go, in the way that they do.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And, it's also, we're talking, we'll eventually do our supernatural meditation subconscious episode later. But there's a lot to dig into there that I don't even, we're just skimming the surface here. But I completely agree. I like to have that mindset, and it's worked for me. It's just something that I've always felt. And whether it's rooted in anything real or not, I mean, we'll never know.
It doesn't matter though. Like it doesn't really matter, because it's like the idea that like I always had this idea in the back of my head that this career will work out for me. Always, even when I kind of had a lot of doubt and a lot of self-doubt, it was always a voice in the back of my head going, it'll work. So I always believed that. And, now that it is working, and, my career looks a lot different than it did, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. That belief, I've started to really see the value of that belief. I don't know where it came from either. Because, especially in the beginning, or there was periods of time where the evidence didn't support it, but I just felt, no, it's okay, keep working. And similarly, when you hear actors who and I'm not blaming anybody for this or judging them, but they talk about, oh, it's so hard. But I think part of how hard it is saying that, because it just reinforces it in your head all the time, that this is a hard business. The people I see that are most successful are the people that kind of, have a kind of a confidence that, yeah, everything's good and it's not hard. Like it's easy. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. The attitude sort of serves them, if that makes any sense, which it may not have.
I love that, and I think I totally believe that, and I think that Leslie also kind of preaches that. She uses a metaphor that you're skiing down a slope, and the more times that you go down, you're making grooves of the path of your track.
Yeah, neural pathways.
The more that those tracks are just getting deeper, deeper, deeper. And maybe they're a good track, maybe they're a good path, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're not helping you. And I would like to say that, for both of us in this particular instance, it happened to be a good track that we always happen to believe, and it's kind of ingrained after a while, and it's just there.
She also uses that as an analogy for forging new neural pathways in the way you work. Because I will say, with all this mindset stuff, you still have to put in the work. You still have to, train and be as good as you can be. And I, for myself, like continually try to practice that and reinforce it and get better. But like her thing about the tracks in the snow is it takes time to forge new neural pathways. So, you've the old grooves that you can fall back into very easily, or you can forge new ones. And the reason you have to keep practicing is it snows every night, because in order to make them deeper, you have to keep working in that way. So like it's related to this, if you want to adopt that mindset, it might take a bit of work. You know what I mean? It might take a bit of, but the benefits of it are massive in my experience.
That's great. So let's get back to this. So we're talking about Oscar campaigns. This is the stuff that studios don't talk about. In 2019, we're looking at $20 to $30 million for contenders. Whether that's increased or not, it just gives you a gauge. There are strict rules as far as... okay. This is actually what I want to start, because you touch on this. It absolutely does help the movie. It absolutely does. An Oscar campaign, Oscar buzz, say a nomination. Brady Corbet is not unhappy to fly around the world to promote this film. Yeah, he got paid $0 for it. He knows that it's crucial for more people to see it. It's crucial to obviously win it if people, you're more likely to win it if people actually see your movie. If Demi Moore gives a viral speech at the Golden Globes, these little things are all part of the influence of, I want to go see this movie. I got to see this movie. So there's no doubt that it helps the movie. It's just kind of interesting how the studios have so much money to shell out.
Yeah, that is surprising, especially when we hear about guest stars being billed as co-stars, and when we're fighting to get a fair wage, that there's $20 to $30 million.
When they ask us to do favors to save $200, you start wondering.
Yeah, that's where that money's going, into the Oscar budget.
There are strict rules and regulations. How big is your party? What you can have at the party? How many people you can invite at screenings and invites?
Oh,
the whole words or the phrase "for your consideration" is specifically because you can't say "please vote for me."
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know. I didn't know that. I learned so much when I was like looking into this story. So many rules, regulations, and this is the tip of the iceberg. For you to be considered, I do want to say the SAG Awards are this weekend. We're recording before the SAG Awards, but the SAG Awards are the award show for all SAG members, obviously. This is not the only award show, but to submit for consideration, you have to pay. You have to pay an entry to submit
for the SAG Awards.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
For an individual, it's hundreds of dollars. For an entire film, it's thousands. So this is all these academies and all these bodies are accepting these fees just for these award shows. To email blast, hey, for your consideration, consider so-and-so to nominate for the SAG Awards. You have to pay thousands of dollars.
Really?
For an email blast. The SAG Awards is not the only one. In all of these guilds, and all of these awards, let's see, an email blast for documentaries is $500 to $250. Is $500. A cost of a mailing to its members is $500. The Academy fee, after nominations are announced, the Academy for each blast, it's $1,000.
So when you
we
say
talk
blast,
about
like,
the-
what's to
yeah,
stop
yeah.
me and you sending out an email blast? Will they just go, hey, you can't do that? Or is it just, do you have to do it through them? Or is there a
That's a great point. So the email blast is an official email blasted from the Academy. So say, for example, like, we're members of SAG. So the entire membership of SAG that has an email will get blasted and say, hey, vote for so-and-so for this role in The Brutalist. And so when our emails got flooded with screenings and all that stuff, every so often you will see an email blast about a film or behind the scenes or an interview. I had no idea it cost that much. And so there you go. That's the money behind an Oscar campaign.
right?
Um,
20 to
whole-
$30 million. Like,
Side little note about when this all started. The way that the story goes, it goes back to Shakespeare in Love. Shakespeare in Love.
good
Of
movie.
all the people, the mastermind, the Oscars mastermind, Harvey Weinstein. So if people remember, that was the year that they beat Saving Private Ryan for Best Picture. There was a war going on during the campaign season. Harvey Weinstein was going for it like he was, and they got Best Picture. And I want to say since then, they had to put regulations, they had to put rules on it, and now it became this huge thing after all these years of what the Oscars is. And I'm not going to lie, I actually remember watching Shakespeare in Love. I actually really liked it. It was
liked it too.
it really, the pre-actor econ, it just struck something in me. Anyway,
You're like, I want to be like Joseph Fiennes.
exactly.
Speaking of Saving Private Ryan, they actually filmed the beach scene down in Wexford here in Ireland, storming the beach. And
Oh,
they
that famous
used-
scene.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Saving Private Ryan was a heavy favorite. So
Masterminded by notorious bastard.
exactly. That's Hollywood, huh?
So,
I know.
and the funny thing is, like, I can see it making more sense in the 90s when there was DVD sales and there was much, I imagine a much bigger profit on movies.
I feel like it's bragging rights, it's prestige. How much does it help Netflix bottom line if Amelia Perez wins Oscars?
I suppose it's a draw for them. If you go to a streaming service and they'll do it on Max or they'll do it on, Apple TV or whatever, Oscar winners, and they'll have it as a category. And it does, I don't know, like just from myself, I will look to them first. Subconsciously rate them higher in my head because I'm like, oh, they won Oscars.
It's important for box office, and it's important for diverse films. It's important for diverse actors and so on. And they call it the Oscar bump.
Yeah.
It's gonna get eyeballs. You just talk about like you just walk around and say, "Yeah, I won an Oscar." I mean, come on, that's
Yeah.
kind of awesome. All right, well, I feel like that's a good place to pin it.
Yeah.
This was a great episode.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, well, duh, what am I doing? I forgot hidden gems. Let's do hidden gems.
Yeah, you forgot hidden gems. You can, you fucking idiot.
Were you hoping to get by without a hidden gem?
I was, but I had a
have
long
one?
think about it today, and I did come up with one, and I can't remember it now.
So at the end of every episode, we put out a couple of hidden gems, a little nugget from the week.
Oh, I remembered. I'll start. This is for anybody. This is for celiacs because or people with a gluten allergy. If in the Dublin area, this is a very specific hidden gem on the north side of Dublin. But I went to a pub called the White House, which is in Baldoyle, near Portmarnock, where I'm from. And my mother has a severe gluten allergy. And one of the owners of this pub turns out is celiac, and the head chef is celiac. So they have unbelievable gluten-free options. My mom had like a proper like burger bun on a sandwich for the first time in about 10 years and a gluten-free dessert and was over the moon. So if you
amazing.
if you're looking for really good gluten-free options, the White House in Baldoyle is a fantastic pub.
Sounds great. That sounds really good. The beauty of being here at my family's home, they have some stuff literally for 50 some years. The ironing board is the ironing board that my mom had in Kentucky because an old roommate left at their apartment. They're like they're older than I am. For the people watching, for the people listening on YouTube, I'm showing a book here. This is a National Diary from 1969, and it's so adorable because when my dad didn't use it, and 10 years later he wrote 1979 over it, Okay.
Yep.
And for those that don't know, my dad was and is a math professor. Anyway, so the first page is this article that he cut and pasted in the first page of this journal. It was an article interviewing Harvard University professor who just won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, William N. Lipscomb. Anyway, so they're interviewing him about his prize-winning research of boron and hydrogen for all the people looking for some saucy chemistry. His one quote was so applicable, and I just thought it was really, really fun. When you found out that you won the Nobel Prize, what did you feel? Did you feel like he at least achieved recognition? He goes, no, I just said I was pleased. Some reporters didn't understand that at all. You see, in scientific research, you know what you have accomplished, and the people in your field who read your papers know. Recognition grows right along with your work, rather undramatically. And that's the part I was reading. Because I was like, this idea that, you know, are we chasing after a result? Are we chasing after an award? Are we chasing after booking jobs? Are we chasing after bragging to your friends? Are you chasing after Instagram followers? The work is always going to be the work, and it's going to be undramatic. Is that because scientific achievements are so precisely measurable? Of course. And I couldn't work in a field which isn't measurable. Besides, I doubt anyone can work for a Nobel Prize in any field. He doesn't think you can work towards a Nobel Prize. That would stop the flow of ideas. All you can bring to your task is a consuming interest in your subject and patience and hard work. All you can bring to your task is a consuming interest in your subject and patience and hard work. You can't chase after a Nobel Prize, and that's my hidden gem. Some words from it. How hidden is that?
Nothing.
You were not expecting that.
I was not. Nothing boron about that hidden gem. I was just trying to think of hydrogen and boron puns.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, maybe give a like, maybe subscribe. It helps people find the podcast. Also, if you didn't catch last week's episode, it's right over here. Don't worry, we'll wait.